What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another review stream for you guys. Though obviously the North London derby happened yesterday. It finished 2-2 at the Emirates in what you got to say is our best performance at the Emirates for a very long time. And look, Arsenal,
could argue ever.
You reckon ever?
Because I know we won that game at the Emirates in 2010. We were 2-0 down. It could have easily, you know what I mean? We didn't have control like we did, I think, in this game. You could argue.
I mean, look, you could argue. You got a point, but I mean, look, well, there's a lot of talking points to get through in this game, a lot. But let's start off talking about the big ball energy that Arsenal came into this game with. We're going to beat them 5-1. We're going to smash them. It's going to be the same old story ever again, even though they've never smashed us by that scoreline at the Emirates. It has been 5-2 on a number of occasions, but they were saying absolutely they were going to tear us apart. If we go there and play our football, there is no chance we come away with a result. And all this kind of stuff that they were saying all these 1v1 battles, there's no chance that any of our players can come out on top. And it was just like, Arsenal have been above us once in the last 7 years, been in the Champions League for the first time. Like their fans were literally crying hearing that Champions League music because it was so like emotional for them to be back in it for the first time in so long. And as much as we didn't win yesterday, they did get a bit of a humbling, in my opinion, because of the way they came into this game. And like, you got to say that the way we conducted ourselves on that pitch yesterday is something to be admired about, with everything that's gone around with Spurs in the last couple of years and coming into this season. Ange Postecoglou and the team, I think for the most part, did play a blinder yesterday, especially in that second half. I would say, like, in the opening stage of the game, Arsenal did put us under quite a lot of pressure. We did find it hard to get out. We had a lot of possession, but that possession was like just us kind of like contain them, passing within our own half. And in the opening stages of the game, we did seem nervy. Destiny Udogie was getting a hard time from Bukayo Saka. He played a terrible ball that Arsenal could have been in from. Maddison gets robbed in our own box, which that could have been a really dangerous situation. Bissouma as well didn't seem himself in that first half and really came under pressure a few times, lost the ball in some dangerous positions. But I think once we gathered ourselves and got that nervy bits out of our system, we really grew into the game and started to control it.
Yeah, I think we took control after about 35 minutes. I think, look, Arsenal are one of the best high-pressing teams in Europe at the moment. They've got such fresh legs. They've got a really good system under Mikel Arteta. You knew it was going to be a tough game coming into it, and you knew they were going to come flying out the traps, and especially after playing, they had a convincing win in midweek against an attacking team like PSV, and that probably gave them a lot of confidence going to this game that maybe they can get back to their best. And I think they started, I think, fairly well. I think the first 10 minutes was quite even. No teams really gave anything. But then Arsenal really turned up the heat, and it was a struggle for Tottenham to just keep their composure, stay in the game, make sure they're finding their passes, build up from the back. And I think we were maybe a bit too casual, maybe a bit too nervous on occasion. Saka, they were manipulating the possession to get Saka one-on-one with Udogie so often in that first 35 minutes. They looked like they targeted Udogie in those first 35 minutes, and he was getting quite a lot of joy. You got to say, Bukayo Saka, look, he's one of the best right wingers in the Premier League, and there's a reason for that. He's so fast, he's so direct, and it was difficult for Udogie at that point. He got an early yellow card as well, which might have hampered him. They obviously got the goal, a bit of luck, but that came from the right-hand side. Saka cutting in and Romero slicing it into his own net. Jesus nipping it off Maddison inside the box. That could have obviously been a massive moment in the game if they go 2-0 up. And they definitely had some big moments in those first 30 minutes. And obviously coming into that game and looking how intense that press was from Arsenal. And then once we went 1-0 down, I did fear the worst, to be honest. But what I'm so proud of is after that first 35 minutes or so, we kept playing. It would have been very easy for example, in those moments where Maddison gets robbed in his own penalty area, it would have been very easy if in that same situation, as the game gone on, we changed the way of playing and just started going long, or decided to play safety first and getting rid in those situations, as opposed to continuing to stick to the principles and playing out the back and playing, even when we are being pressed, to continue to try and play out that press. And that's what we did. We didn't shirk our responsibility. We didn't stop playing how we wanted to play, which was playing out from the back, being press resistant, being confident on the ball. And the more we stuck to it, the more joy we were getting. And all of a sudden, Arsenal, once they were putting pressure on us, we were starting to find solutions. And this is what I kept saying, like what we've been doing this season. Against Man United, we started the game in a similar fashion. We were conceding chances, yet we found solutions during the game to play out their press. And it was really good game management. Against Burnley, 1-0 down inside 5 minutes, they were having the better of it in the early exchanges, yet we found solutions and we found ways of getting out the press. And that's exactly what happened against Arsenal. We started to find the solutions. We started to get Kulusevski more involved. Son was coming a bit deeper and causing Arsenal a lot of problems. And the last 10 minutes of that first half, we were on top.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we did equalise, even though we'd only been on top for like 5 minutes at that time, it wasn't even a surprise because that goal felt like it was coming, even though we'd only been on top for about 5 minutes because of the solutions we were finding. Brennan Johnson should have really made it 1-1 after a great save from Raya. And in the end, we did get that equaliser just before half-time, and it was reward for how we'd grown into the game in that first half.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I thought Odegaard was playing a really good game in that first half, and we were finding it really hard to deal with him at times, to be honest. And then, I don't know what it was, but maybe it was when he got that booking, but he just didn't show up for that second half, Odegaard. And I think that was the majority of the Arsenal players, because as much as they were putting us under pressure in that first half for a good 20-25 minute period, I thought the one player that was really standing up for us and didn't make any mistakes throughout the whole game was Mickey van de Ven. I thought he was a man mountain yesterday. He was at his aggressive best. He was winning challenges time and time again. And I was just so proud of his performance. You're talking about a player who's 22 years of age, first North London derby, his 6th game in a Spurs shirt, and he puts in a performance like that away at the Emirates in one of our hardest games of the season. And we're all saying, like, before he came to Spurs, like, yeah, we're going to have to bide our time with this guy. He's going to have to feel his way into the Premier League, feel his way into a Spurs shirt. But I mean, has he put in a bad display yet? I think he has been near perfect in a Spurs shirt.
He's been unlucky because he had 2 own goals. Because he had one against Burnley, Brentford. He has another own goal though, hasn't he?
No, it was
just
Romero
one goal
yesterday.
Yeah, it was one. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. And even in that game against Brentford, I remember, like, if you're maybe an opposition fan and you're not seeing the whole game, you can think, oh, look, he's had a dodgy start, he scored an own goal, and we conceded a couple goals. But I think we could all see in that Brentford game, this guy was so composed, didn't let that own goal affect him, and he went on to have a brilliant game. And he's literally barely put a foot wrong since.
And you remember in the build-up to this game when we were doing the comparisons to the Arsenal players and the Spurs players, and we were talking about Romero against like Gabriel, Romero against Saliba. Whenever we would mention Mickey van de Ven, it just gets laughed out the room. We didn't even get to have a debate on Mickey van de Ven against any of their players. And Mickey van de Ven, as much as Saliba had a great game yesterday, no doubt about it, but when you're comparing the two left centre-backs, it was night and day for me who was better between van de Ven and Gabriel yesterday.
100%. And I thought van de Ven was, to go into that atmosphere and play the way he did, like, so composed, like didn't let the occasion affect him, maybe another, like a lot of other players did, especially in that first 35 minutes. He was imperious throughout the whole game, and I thought if it wasn't for him, it would have been a different story. I thought Nketiah, he had that one chance where Udogie obviously gave it to him, but apart from that, Nketiah was completely nullified throughout the game. I thought he did really well on occasion, went out to the left-hand side and helped out Udogie with Saka on occasion as well. And there were just occasions where we pushed up and we allowed Van de Ven just there by himself, because we know he can handle those one-on-one duels and those opportunities. And when crosses were coming in the box, he was the one getting on the end of things as well. I was so proud of his performance, and to do that as a 22-year-old in your first few games in a Spurs shirt, we've seen defenders crumble in these situations for Spurs. I think it was Longley was in a very similar situation last season. It was one of his early games at the Emirates, and I thought he was terrible. He got completely overawed by the Arsenal backline. You can say it's tactics, whatever. I'm just saying, if you're comparing the performances, he's supposed to be a lot more of an experienced defender. He should have the tools a bit more to handle that situation, and he didn't. Yet Van de Ven is a young defender, and he came into this game and I thought put an outstanding performance. And that kind of temperament goes a long way to showing me that this guy is going to be a serious defender for us for many, many years to come. And I couldn't be happier with his start to life at Tottenham.
Yeah, totally agree. So when you're looking at first, in the 25th minute, Arsenal go 1-0 up with a very unlucky own goal from Cuti Romero. Saka gets the cross in, he puts out a leg and it goes into the back of the net. Very frustrating, to be honest, for it to happen to Kuti as well, which I did think Kuti had a really good game yesterday, but it was just those 2 moments that kind of let him down. But both of them were very unfortunate, unlucky moments. You got to say that. And
I would say for the own goal, it wasn't one of those own goals where I come away with thinking there's not much he could have done. I felt like he just really got it wrong.
Yeah.
But the penalty we'll talk about later, but I feel like he couldn't really do much about that.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you could say that, but it's still an unlucky moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I thought, like you said, in the last 10 minutes of the first half, or maybe a bit less, then Spurs really gained control. Spurs did get that goal on the back of it. Maddison completely skins Bukayo Saka alive after he does the dart celebration. Completely skins him alive. And Heung-min Son, I've watched it so many times. I still don't know how he does what he did, because he's got Saliba, Declan Rice, and Gabriel all around him. He gets in there with just a flick into the corner, and no keeper is saving that.
He just needs an inch, Son. He's that clinical. This is what I was saying before the game. Like, but it's going to be a very open game. There's going to be chances at both ends, and a lot of it could be decided by who finishes their chances. I know that we have the most clinical player on the pitch, and that's Heung-min Son. And not only is he the most clinical player on the pitch, he's one of the most clinical players in the Premier League or even in Europe. And I think he showed that yesterday. He didn't have to have too many chances to bury his finishes. And that first goal was actually a bit of a carbon copy of our goal against Bournemouth, apart from obviously the madness that Maddison was doing on the touchline. But a cutback, Son makes a darting run to the near post, and on his left foot, you know how two-footed he is. Doesn't matter what foot he's finishing on. Absolute clinical into that corner, kisses the post on the way in as well. And to find that space in the box, as you say, with all those defenders around him,
there was no space.
It was. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it, and it makes me feel like as well, if he has that ability in him, because obviously I associate Son more with that second finish. You know, running into the space in behind, and obviously when he's 1-on-1 with the keeper, he can finish. We know he can do that. But obviously the big question marks about Son playing him in the number 9 is when there's a low block, when he's surrounded by defenders, is he going to be able to find space and the time to finish his chances when there's defenders around him? And he maybe proved yesterday that maybe when he can find solutions when he's against that low block, because obviously against Sheffield United he found it a bit more difficult. But yesterday, to make that run was absolutely brilliant. Didn't even have a second to think about it. Just flicks it into the corner, and that's what he can do. That's the quality he has in his boots. And unbelievable finish from Heung-min Son, and I think was a reward for a brilliant end to the half. And yeah, Brendan Johnson had a couple of chances as well. He was maybe feel like he should.
Saved by David Raya. Unbelievable.
If that doesn't win save of the season, that has to win save of the season. I don't know how he gets to it.
It really is. And Brendan Johnson, I thought in the first half he was causing them problems on the breakaway. He had a couple of chances to put the ball in the back of the net. It's very unfortunate for him. Like halfway through that second half, he goes off, which looked like a hamstring injury. And the injuries are starting to build up a little bit for Spurs now.
I feel like that hamstring injury, I think, was testament potentially to the work rate he was putting in, because I felt like a lot of the time he was getting back in position, tracking back really well. I know Saka was causing havoc, but I thought Johnson was doing his best. Look, you got to remember, it's his first start for Spurs, so I think he did really well on his debut. To come into that as well, your first start coming at the Emirates as well, I thought he did really well for himself. I thought he gave a good account of himself. Really unlucky not to get on the score sheet a couple of times, and I think this guy is gonna, especially in these kind of games where there's lots of space for him to play, and he's going to cause a lot of problems. And I think it was a really good tactical tool. Yeah, it's a shame. It looks like he's probably going to be out. I'll be surprised if we see him before the international break again, to be honest. So that's just look, that's going to happen, and it's unfortunate for him. We'll have to wait and see what the scan brings. But I was really happy with Brennan, and I think wasn't a incredible performance, but I just thought, given the circumstances, he did very, very well. It'd be very easy for him to have an anonymous display in this kind of game, and he definitely wasn't that. Yeah,
it's just frustrating that it's like him and Perisic gone at the same time, pretty much. Obviously, Perisic is much worse. Probably never going to see Perisic again, so we can probably count him out as a Spurs player at this point. But Brennan Johnson, hopefully he can get back to full fitness soon. You talk about the Destiny Udogie yellow card in the first 15 minutes. But when we were on top, what really frustrated me and what really worried me was Bissouma and Sarr getting booked right at the end of that second half of that first half, and you're starting to think, wow, are we going to get a sending off here? Because two of our central midfielders booked, which was really important for us to regain that kind of control in the second half, and I thought that was going to be really difficult with both of them booked.
And we were struggling on top of that as well.
Yeah, well, not at that point. We kind of like gained control at that point, but Destiny Udogie as well being booked against Bukayo Saka for that whole second half, I thought, wow, like we're in for it here. But Udogie was growing and growing and growing throughout that game. I thought what really kind of swung it in our favour a lot in that second half was Declan Rice going off at half time. I thought that was a massive plus for us because Rice was playing, he was probably one of their better players in the first half. He was controlling things in the middle of the park. I thought Vieira going off wasn't really, I don't think he was really suited to the game. I thought he was being physically overawed pretty much for the majority of the first half. So I think it was a good decision from Arteta to take him off.
They were apparently both injuries, apparently.
Oh, Arteta said it was tactical, the Vieira one.
Did he?
Yeah, after the game.
Okay. Someone said, well, I was watching the interviews from, it was Arsenal fans, wasn't Arteta, but they both said it was injuries. So maybe not.
Arteta, I was watching his post-match interview. He said Declan Rice was an injury and Fabio Vieira was tactical. So I think that made sense from Mikel to do that. But I think the Declan Rice one really did open them up massively. And I think Bissouma, once Declan Rice went off, completely controlled that middle of the park. Jorginho did not know how to deal with anything that Spurs threw his way. And obviously, the penalty comes very early on in that second half. What did you make out of the penalty? Because I thought it was really harsh.
I think it's harsh. There's at the end of the day, there's not much Romero can do in that situation. He's going to block the shot. The shot gets deflected, and then it goes, and then it hits his arm. Yes, the arm is high, but at the end of the day, when you're looking to block a shot, you've got to try and balance yourself. I think that's a natural position for where. What he's trying to do for what he's attempting to do. So I understand like the ball's going like heading to the goal, and obviously Bissouma's there. He might have blocked it. He might have not blocked it. We don't know. Obviously, if it's Spurs, I'm going to be shouting for a penalty. I just think, in my opinion, if the referee gives the penalty at that moment, I don't have any complaints. The fact that VAR goes back to it, though, that's what I complain about because I think 50% of people think that's a penalty. 50% of people think that's harsh. It's not a penalty. So I don't see why VAR. It's not clear and obvious mistake, in my opinion, unless the referee has said to the VAR, "Look, I don't even know if it's hit his hand or not. I don't know what's happened." Then I can maybe understand. But if the referee's seen it his hand and he's decided at that point, look, I think it's. Look, also, we've got to put in the proximity as well. Like, there's no time to react. He was very, very close to Romero as well. The proximity of the shot. So I just think I've got a few complaints about VAR getting involved because they've not got involved in other situations. They're a bit like the Man United one, which a lot of people did think was a penalty, that VAR didn't get involved in that. So I don't understand why they are getting involved in this one. As I said, a bit like the complaints I had about the Son one early in the season against Brentford. I thought it was a penalty potentially, but I just didn't think it was clear enough for VAR to be getting involved. And I don't think these are the incidences VAR should be stepping in on, in my opinion, when it's a close call. Yeah, no, that's basically the question I was going to ask you. Do you think, like, because I was thinking, like, if the ref points to the spot there and then fine, we got no complaints. But to go back to VAR, I thought it was very harsh on Cuti And they
Romero.
was looking at it for 5 minutes. So clearly they weren't 100% sure VAR. It wasn't like one look, oh, clearly it's a penalty. It was like, was it not? It was a very close decision. So I don't think VAR should be getting involved in close decisions like that.
As soon as it went back to VAR, I knew they were going to give it. Yeah. You knew. But look, that lead only lasted a few seconds because James Maddison darts down the other end, a lovely ball into Heung-min Son, and you just knew what was going to happen once that reached Sonny Boy. Raya had no chance in the bottom left-hand corner, and scenes in that away end when we scored that second goal, and it was just like all the kind of memes and streams coming out of it. It was Arsenal fans celebrating that penalty, and then they don't even get the chance to finish celebrating. Son's already put it in the back of the net down the other end. Yeah, and I think a lot from a Spurs fans point, obviously it's amazing just to get back level terms of Arsenal very quickly. A lot of it was a bit of relief just because we finished that first half so strongly, and it must have been a massive it could have been very easy for us, like when straight after this coming out in the second half, conceding so quickly after like 5 minutes, especially to a controversial penalty as well. It could have been very easy for us to feel sorry for ourselves, start blaming the referee, start getting frustrated with the situation. But we dust ourselves down very quickly, pounced on a mistake. Maddison robbing Jorginho of the ball, not giving him a second to think about when he's got the ball, and beautiful ball to Heung-min Son. And I thought
that was a point where I thought, because even at 2-1. At 1-0, I was a lot more worried about where the game was going, but at 2-1, I always felt we're still in this game. We can get back in it. And with the
you
way
didn't have
we
long
reacted,
time to think about
I didn't have long time. I didn't think it would react within a minute. But look, I know. And Arsenal fans, they've all said after the game, if Jesus takes that chance after a mistake by Maddison, it could have been different. And they're all saying, that was a turning point. But you know what? You got to have quality to punish the opposition, and that's exactly what we did. Heung-min Son with a clinical finish. You can't give Son that opportunity, and he doesn't need to be asked twice. And that's the difference between someone like, when we were talking about in the preview, between someone like him and Jesus. Yeah, Jesus maybe in general play is a bit more involved, but when push comes to shove, when they get the chances, who are you backing in front of goal? Heung-min Son every time, and he's the one on the end of the day who got the brace.
And that's the difference maker. Exactly the difference maker, and that is why Heung-min Son is considered as an elite football player. And that's why Man City was so willy-nilly willing to let Gabriel Jesus go at the end of the day to a Premier League rival. So look, we go 2-2 in the 55th minute, and I thought Spurs really stamped their authority in the game after that. Midfield battle was completely won. Jorginho was struggling. Kai Havertz couldn't get into the game whatsoever, and we were the ones in the ascendancy. If anyone was looking like they were going to go on and win the game at that point, it was Spurs.
Yeah, and at that point, that's when Basuma really came alive. I thought after that equaliser, it wasn't the Basuma like just playing it simply anymore. He was bursting through the centre. He was taking anyone on, and he was really becoming the Basuma we've seen the whole season. And
he had the beating of anyone
who came his way. It didn't matter. And this is what we're talking about. Like the stuff I saw from Basuma in that second half. Like Rice would never. Even I know Rice had a good first half, but he is not going to be capable of doing what Basuma is capable of doing in that second half, just bursting through the Arsenal midfield like they weren't even there at times. And that led to a lot of opportunities. And the only frustration is, I guess, in that period, in that maybe last, because I felt like the last maybe 10 minutes of the game or 15 minutes of the game, Arsenal, I wouldn't say gained control, but they were putting us under a lot of pressure, and they had a lot of corners, and they didn't really create any chances, but they were on top of it. But in that period, in that next half an hour after we scored and up until maybe 5 minutes before the end of the game, we really had control, and we were the ones opening up Arsenal, especially in their midfield, a lot. The only I guess, disappointment is maybe we didn't do enough with those good promising situations that we did carve open. We had a lot of times we were just getting in on their final third and weren't able to create the good quality chances maybe we should have. And the amount of times Basuma was getting in on their getting past their midfield and creating opportunities for the other players, we probably should have made more of those opportunities. That moment where Porro gets on the right hand side, he has two players in the box after brilliant football from Spurs to engineer that opportunity, just didn't get the cross right, and that would have been a massive moment. And then obviously I can't remember what minute they went off, but when Son and Maddison did go off, we just lost. It was 78. That was it. We lost that cutting edge when we still were able to kind of break their midfield, but we lost that cutting edge in the final third. And Højbjerg and Richarlison weren't really threatening as much as those two.
Yeah, it's a shame because Richarlison actually got the ball in some really good areas, and I felt like if Heung-min Son picked up the ball where Richarlison picked up the ball in the last kick of the game, then maybe we could have celebrated an unbelievable last win. Because Son's got that unbelievable finishing ability where he can just finish it from anywhere on the pitch, where you don't have the same confidence when Richarlison picks up the ball, it was frustrating that Son and Maddison had to go off at the same time, because those two are our really influential and danger men players on the pitch. So it was frustrating, but we got to talk about the Nketiah decision when he goes flying in on Vicario, studs up. Such a dangerous challenge. If it's a bit more to the left and he connects with the studs, that's a leg breaker.
Yeah,
that really is a leg breaker. And I do not understand how that is not a sending off. Like, in what world is that not a sending off?
Yeah, it's 100% a sending off. I think he's extremely lucky to get away with it. I think he's very lucky VAR didn't take a look at that and say, maybe you've got it wrong. I think he's only I guess he gets away with it because his studs didn't make contact with Vicario. He kind of, Vicario goes in between his legs, very luckily for him. Otherwise, that could have been a really serious injury for him. So I think Nketiah is extremely lucky that he just slightly misses contact. But even then, it was still extremely dangerous tackle. Like, Vicario could have rolled his ankle or anything. His foot was planted. And I think it was a reckless challenge as well, completely out of control. Didn't need to make that challenge as well. It was just a ridiculous.
It's gone 10 years before.
Yeah, I just think it was cynical. I think he's very, very lucky that it wasn't a red card. I think he just about gets away with a VAR intervention. I'm not saying I don't think VAR definitely should have got involved. I just think the referee made the wrong call. I think the referee should have given him the red card, and that should have been that. I just think he's lucky the referee didn't pull out the red. Very lucky. But if I'm saying the VAR should have a high bar, I'm okay with VAR not getting involved in that situation.
Yeah, and then after that, we showed our dominance for maybe 10 more minutes until the two star men, Sonny and Maddison, went off. And then, like you said, we lost a lot of impetus in the game. Arsenal really started to put us under a lot of pressure, corner after corner after corner. But you know who I thought stood up really well when we were getting under pressure from those corners was Vicario. How many times did he catch the ball? How many times did he punch it out? He was so dominant in that penalty area. And I felt Vicario was brilliant throughout the whole game, to be honest. I thought, look, you can't have too many complaints about the penalty. You can't have too many complaints about the own goal. He was just completely he couldn't have saved either of them. Well, he could have saved the penalty if he stood still, but it's a penalty at the end of the day. But everything that came his way, I thought he dealt with a really high standard.
Yeah, 100%. I thought he was exceptional throughout the 90 minutes as well. Made some big saves in that first half to make sure that we weren't going, we were staying in the game. And then second half, we didn't have too many saves to make apart from that one late one from Saka. But yeah, the corners I thought we stepped up really well from those corners in the late game, because I thought a lot of the times, obviously we conceded, the penalty came from a corner, and we looked like if they got too many corners, we could be in a lot of trouble. But I thought we actually, in those last 10 minutes, they had about 4 or 5 corners, and I think we stood up to challenge very well. Vicario made some really good punches. He made some really good catches as well. I thought the defenders, I thought Romero did really well in those last 10 minutes as well, really stepping up well for the team, and Van de Ven. So I think when we were backs against the wall a bit in the latter stage of the game, and we couldn't have even nicked it because we had a late chance with Richarlison as well. So even though we were under pressure for those last 10 minutes, we still offered a bit of attacking threat as well. Unfortunately, we didn't make the most of it. But I thought defensively we were so strong, and I was really proud, because it would have been could have been easy for us to crumble in that situation, but we showed that we're not going to crumble in these situations. We're stronger. We're made of stronger stuff now. So hopefully in the long term we are, but definitely in this game we were.
Yeah, and a couple of players that I wanted to mention, Pedro Porro, who I think is just growing and growing and growing in a Spurs shirt. And I thought yesterday was probably the best defensive display of the season. Nothing got past him throughout the whole day. They just couldn't get any spare change out of him. I wanted to see a bit more from him going forward, to be fair, but I thought as a defensive display, I thought it was absolutely top notch. Yeah,
I mean, Jesus, I think maybe got the better of him on 1 or 2 occasions that first half. But other than that, Porro pretty much, I think he got taken off in the end, Jesus, because he was not getting enough joy really out of Porro. I thought there was a couple of occasions as well where he played it into him, and he played some really good first time passes into space. And that's what I like about Porro. He seems to have a picture on the pitch of his mind, and he's confident enough to play a pass where I know where it's going to go, with like having done a few scans before he receives it. And there was one, I think it was actually the chance that he had where he could have squared it to Son, but in the build up to that chance, he played a lovely pass into Maddison, into the space in the centre when they were pressing us, and it really allowed us to get up the pitch. And I think he's such an underrated passer just in general play as well, and he's really growing game on game. In the big thing people worried about in these big games, is he not going to be a defensive liability? Are we going to need someone like Emerson in these games? But not only is he not a defensive liability, but you also get the rewards of how good he is on the ball as well with that. So he's becoming a top right back in these first few games of the season, and considering as well that Emerson was the one who started in that first game of the season, and Porro maybe had to win his place. And Emerson actually had a good game against Brentford.
Scored a goal.
And he scored a goal. Yeah, Porro has come in against Man United for the big game there, had a brilliant game, near faultless, and then he's gone on strength to strength, and he's having a fantastic season. And there's going to be games as well where he's going to be a lot more involved in the attack, and he's going to be getting assists, and he's going to be getting to the byline. But he didn't have to do that in this game. He just had to be defensively solid, be a really good player in the build-up. And I'm really happy with Pedro Porro. He's becoming a top right back.
Yeah, and not only him, but the other guy on the right-hand side, Dejan Kulusevski, put in an unbelievable display as well. Following on from the great display he put on last week against Sheffield United, I thought he followed it up with I thought he was one of, if not our best player in that first half, to be honest. And he was just like carrying the ball. He was just so physical. They just couldn't seem to touch him at times yesterday, to be honest. And he was just doing that kind of water carrier role and bringing it up the pitch consistently time and time again. And I felt it was really hard for Arsenal to deal with him.
Yeah, 100%. I think Zinchenko couldn't really get the ball off him. And that was why I was adamant I really wanted him in the lineup for this game, because he was an outlet for us. I felt like every time, if we were in a bit of trouble in the press, I know we struggled in the press a bit in that first half, but if we needed an outlet, someone who could physically keep the ball and hold the ball up for a bit and allow us to sustain a bit of possession, it was Kulusevski, and Maddison was able to find him on the right-hand side a few times. I think he really did exploit Zinchenko on their left-hand side. Obviously, the chance when we set up Brennan Johnson came from a link-up between Kulusevski and Son. The chance where, obviously, Porro gets across, and that was, again, Kulusevski keeping the ball and laying off to Porro, who had that cross, which Ray had to deal with. So I think time and time again, especially in that first half, when our best moments came from Kulusevski, just being able to keep the ball away from Zinchenko and exploiting that space he was leaving. And second half as well, he set up a chance for Richarlison really late on the game. I thought he was just I wouldn't say a menace, because maybe he could have done a bit more chance creation, but I just thought he was a thorn in Arsenal's side, which they couldn't really deal with, his physicality, and that's what he brings. And what I really like about him as well is maybe a weaker winger when you play the ball into the corner and he's asked to chase it down and then hold possession from a defender. That's where he's really strong, where a weaker defender would maybe be shoved off the ball a lot easily. He's able to shove off the defender and then turn when he's being pressed and in close proximity. And I actually think that's where Kulusevski's at his best. I don't think he's actually at his best when he's asked to run into lots of space, and that's where he is. Where he's at his best is when he's got defenders near him and he can roll them with his physicality and get that yard of space with his own physical traits. And that's what he did yesterday, and he wasn't bullied at all. In fact, he bullied Zinchenko for a lot of that game, and I thought he had a really good performance.
And that's what we said in the build-up to this. We need to target Zinchenko because defensively he's poor. We know that. We've seen it time and time again, especially at the back end of last season when they thought they were going for the title. Zinchenko made many, many defensive errors, and I felt like that was the kind of area which we could target, and I felt like we did that fairly well, to be honest, yesterday. Another player, actually, I want to mention that hasn't been spoken about much since the game finished is Pape Matar Sarr. I thought he was a bit of an unsung hero yesterday, Sarr. He didn't have maybe his best display of the season, but he did such great work for the team. He literally, if you look at his heat map, he was everywhere yesterday. He was non-stop running, buzzing around like a bee, winning the ball time and time again, being a physical presence in the middle of the park. And I felt, as much as Bissouma is getting the plaudits yesterday for us having control of that midfield in the second half, I thought he was a massive part of it as well.
100%. I think he helped out Bissouma a lot, and he allowed us to maintain that control in the second half of that midfield. In that first half, he did struggle a bit. He obviously got booked with a challenge where he got I think it was Vieira got the wrong side of him. He actually also had a couple of moments where he took some real wild swipes on the ball on the edge of the box, and there was we were worried about whether he was buckling a bit. But I thought he really composed himself. He settled into the game a bit like the rest of the team. And come the second half, he was really dominating that midfield. I think Havertz barely had a touch because of him. And I was looking at Højbjerg, and I thought, okay, Sarr's going to come up for Højbjerg. Actually, it was Maddison because he had that injury, but I think Sarr really gave a really great account of himself. And on the ball, I wouldn't say disappointed, but I've seen better from him. But off the ball, again, we know he always gives those fundamentals. And considering he was on a yellow and he kept on putting on challenges and he kept on stepping up for the team, especially for a 20-year-old, really unbelievable.
20 years of age to put in that performance in the second half on a yellow card. So mature.
100%.
20. It's unbelievable.
And Udogie as well.
And Udogie. Yeah, both of them, to be honest, because I thought Udogie was growing and growing and growing as the game wore on. I wasn't really happy with him in the first half, especially after all the talk we were giving him before the game to the Arsenal fans. But I felt like he was one of the best players in that second half. And the way he was carrying the ball, the way he was being physical up against Saka, I thought he won that battle against Saka in the second half.
100%. And as Pat Ange said in his press conference, that he felt like Udogie was having a difficult time in the early part, but he ended up being the dominant player in that on that wing. And I think that's absolutely correct. And at the end of the day, I think the stats where he made 8 tackles, more than anyone on the pitch. And considering you're on a yellow card against Bukayo Saka as well on that side, one of the most tricky wingers in the Premier League, he really stepped up. He didn't get overawed by the situation he was in. Really he was given a lot of trouble in that first half an hour or so. And you're thinking it's going to be a very difficult day for him, but he ended up coming out on top. And that is for me the most impressive thing, because I think a lot of young players in that situation would have been maybe after being beaten a couple of times by Saka and the fact that there's 1-0 down coming from his side as well and being booked, it would have been very easy for him to be very low on confidence. But what I really liked, and I remember during the game I pointed it out, like there were occasions where he was struggling against Saka, but Maddison came and gave him a talk. I think after he gave away a corner, and I think gave away a chance, didn't he, to Nketiah?
Back pass,
yeah, and so he was really having a tough time, but Maddison came and calmed him down. He was like giving him a few words of encouragement, and that really seemed to work, because after those moments he was the one coming out on top. And even that second half, obviously, you know, it would have been easy for Postecoglou even in that situation maybe haul him off and just say, oh look, he's losing this battle, time to get him off, he's on a yellow, don't want to get him sent off. But he didn't. He trusted him, and I thought the fact that he turned it around, and not only turned it around but actually excelled and got on top as well, and wasn't afraid to take on a few of the Arsenal players and show the confidence in his dribbling, and put in 8 tackles, have the most tackles on the pitch when you're on a yellow card, shows that he wasn't overawed by that occasion at all. And I thought it was exceptional in the end.
Yeah, it was one of those strange feelings yesterday, to be honest, because you come into the game before the game and you're probably thinking to yourself, you know, you take a draw at the Emirates. The way we came under so much pressure in that first half, I thought we stuck together, stuck to our guns, carried on playing our football. It didn't overroar us. And Spurs teams of yesteryear, maybe the past 2 or 3 years, would have probably laid down from that pressure that Arsenal were putting on us and gone on to lose the game 2-3-0. And you're talking about another North London battering at the Emirates. But the way we just stuck in there, hung in there, and ended the game for me, I was like, at the end of the game, I was like disappointed we didn't go and win that game.
Yeah, I don't understand why Arsenal fans, I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans on their post-match stuff saying we're celebrating like we've won a cup or something. No one was celebrating the draw yesterday. Obviously, we're proud of our team, don't get me wrong, and I'm happy with the point, but I didn't see many, like at the end of the final whistle wasn't like a massive celebration for Tottenham. Obviously, we were really proud, like we were clapping the players when they came. Obviously, we're very proud of the team, and I think to get a point in this situation was something to be proud of, but I didn't see a massive like over celebration at all from Tottenham or the players after the game. If anything, there was more of a twinge of disappointment, if anything.
I mean, as soon as the final whistle went, I was disappointed because we didn't go on and win. But it's weird because on one hand, you're very proud of the performance that they've put in at the Emirates because it's the best performance we've put in there for a long time. But on the other hand, you're disappointed that you don't come away with 3 points. And I think that's great mentality to have. And you're talking about Heung-min Son, who spoke in his interview after the game, talking about how disappointed he was that we didn't get the 3 points. The sense in the dressing room was down instead of up because we didn't get those 3 points. And I'm loving that mentality from the Spurs players. 100%. And that's what Ange Postecoglou has instilled in them.
Yeah, and to have that so quickly is astounding, really. The fact that we went to the Emirates and... Because a lot of people saying like, oh, we're going to, like, even Spurs fans have been saying, like, at the beginning of the season, I'm sure there'll be games where we take tonkings this season and because of the way we play. I probably said that as well. I'm sure there'll be games where we're going to take some tonkings because of the way we play. And if there's ever going to be a game where we could potentially take a tonking considering the opposition, it would have been this game. And the fact that not only did we not take a tonking, but actually we ended up playing better than them for large parts of that game. And the way we played actually was able to play through them and was actually to gain control for a lot of that game, I think goes to show that we must be way ahead of schedule for where we thought we would be at this stage of the Postecoglou project, and that's the most encouraging thing. And it makes me think like, when is this tonking coming? Because I'm because I
speak too soon. I'm yet to see it.
I get that, and that might be it. That maybe that is going to be the game where we take the tonking. But I'm just so proud that. We've been in the basically. I'm trying to say like yesterday, like especially 1-0 down, like under pressure, giving away chances in our own box. Like if there was ever going to be a game where we could be taking a battering, it could have been that situation. Yet we didn't let that happen. We were able to turn that around. Like I remember, for example, like Arteta very early on in his Arsenal tenure, not even early on, like it was in the season where they were battling for fourth with us. Like I remember they were having a good start to the season, and they went to Anfield and. They had quite a good start to the game, and yet I remember they gave away a goal right before half time at Anfield. Like Tavares passed it through to Jota, and they will go 1-0 down in the first half, and they get absolutely battered in the second half. They let it affect them. Their heads dropped, and they completely were devoid of confidence. They end up getting battered 4-0 in that game, and that could have been a very similar situation to us yesterday. Yeah. Could have been a very similar situation, yet we didn't let that happen. We were able to turn the situation around and actually use it to our advantage. And not only did we not buckle, we excelled. And that's what I'm really impressed with, because for a young team to do that is not easy at all.
Yeah, completely agree. But look, a great day yesterday. A shame we didn't go and get all 3 points, which I thought we deserved. But I think what you got to say is on the balance of play, when you take 90 minutes in your hand and see who deserved the win, I actually think probably a 2-2, a draw was probably a fair result.
I think so, considering the first half an hour and maybe the last 15 minutes as well. I think you got to say a draw is a fair result. But no one can say Arsenal were better. I don't think any Arsenal fans are even saying that they were better at all on the day. If anything, when we were on top and in control, we looked more in control than they did for large parts. So I think a draw was probably a fair result. And to have that is unbelievable, considering how mad Arsenal fans were talking before the game about how they're going to batter us and we can't handle their play and stuff. They can handle us. It was like that meme. It reminded me of that meme a bit. Oh, you're going to need a hospital, but not for me. And then he pulls out a gun. It's like that was that meme that reminded me of yesterday, because I think Spurs really came up trumps, and I was so proud of them.
Yeah. Totally agree. So that is our match review from the Emirates yesterday. 2-2 draw in what you've got to say is our best performance there in a long time. Let's get into a few super chats before we move on to the player rating. But before we get into the super chats, we got Carefree Lewis in the comments.
Big up.
Saying, take Pochettino back. Nah, you're right, mate. You can keep him, mate. We got Big Ange at the wheel now.
You got your project. We'll have our project. Don't you worry.
What is happening at Chelsea at the moment is
relegation are they actually in a relegation battle? I mean, the stats say yes. The facts say yes. The only thing that says no is not the Islanders, like their squad and whatever, but like if you take bold-faced facts, their last 38 games, they're in the relegation zone. That's the reality.
How many points have they had in their last 38
I don't know about points, but they've had 6 wins in their last 38 games.
Chelsea.
38 games, 6 wins.
Unbelievable.
That's relegation. Actually, like that's not even a joke. Like I'm not even taking the piss. That's just the facts.
Yeah. It's mad. It's
crazy.
Mad. Like the only team that they could have beaten this season so far is Luton. It's the only team.
Yeah, it's madness. And even they struggled in that game.
Pochettino, I mean, Poch looks like he's cracking already.
To be fair, I do think they've in terms of general play, they've been very unlucky with just the chances they've missed. But at the end of the day, you're Chelsea. That's no excuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not finishing your chances, maybe if you're like a Sheffield United or something, you can make that excuse. But you're not Chelsea.
I mean, they just can't seem to score any goals at the moment.
Exactly.
None. But there's
crazy.
So many chances they have. So many. Nicholas Jackson, I swear.
Hasn't changed since Potter. It's the same thing under Potter.
Yeah. I was saying before, though, I do feel like when Nkunku comes back and they get a clinical finisher up front, it could change a little bit.
Yeah, but maybe it could change. But when you're relying on one player, you can never want to rely on just one player, you know what I mean?
And here he's back again. He says, Poch is everything we mock Tottenham for being mentally.
I wouldn't say Potter. I think just Chelsea in general right now. Let's be honest, I've never seen it. When was Tottenham ever been this bad?
No, not even in the first year of Poch, and he nearly got sacked that
They haven't been this bad since the 90s.
Yeah. And even then, we probably weren't even this bad.
Well, we were in relegation battles in the 90s.
Yeah, we were. But I mean, we didn't ever struggle to score goals week in, week out. At least we could score goals.
Yeah, true. It was just crazy.
So anyway, big up to Lewis. In terms of the super chats, we got a couple to go through. Canyon Taki says, Ange has us fearless, Conan.
100%. And also what I love just about that fearlessness, where I love that, I guess maybe it was in Twitter Reacts, but Son said before the game they won't want to play us. And a lot of Arsenal fans were mocking him for saying that. They're not going to want to play us. And he goes there and scores a brace and he proves them wrong. And I just love that.
Everything that was said in the build-up to this game from Ange, from Son, I think there was one from another player as well, was all backed up. Everything was backed up, and that's what you love to see, because how many times do we go into games like this sometimes and you get big talk from our players and big talk from this, big talk from that, and we just can't back it up on the football pitch.
100%. I think Ange will talk the talk and he walked the walk. He said he literally, it wasn't a surprise, he literally told them what they're going to do. He actually let them know beforehand, we're going to play our game, we're not going to change for anyone, and that's what we're going to do before the game. And Arsenal fans were licking their lips at that. They were like, okay, this is good, but maybe they didn't understand our game. They weren't familiar with our game. Now they are.
Familiar with our game. Exactly. And I actually think when we take them back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium later this year, we are going to give them a right tonking, and I can't wait. Anvil says 2 draws this season at 2-2. Both had 1 own goal and 1 penalty conceded in both games. I think this comes to a new system and bad luck. Come on, you Spurs. And I think that's right as well, because obviously the 2 own goals, both unlucky, and the 2 penalties as well, both questionable.
100%. So yeah, I completely agree. So the 2 games we've dropped points, there's been a lot of bad luck and things haven't gone our way. But that's even greater, like in both games, things haven't gone our way and we've still been able to turn it around and not lose and take something from the game.
Yeah. Surgical says, I've been waiting a lifetime to fall in love with a Premier League team and brought me here. I'm totally in love with Spurs. Love the Channel 2 guys. Come on, you Spurs.
Big up, Surgical.
And it feels like, do you remember when Poch first got to grips with stuff and everyone around the Premier League started to love Tottenham and started to fall in love with Tottenham? We were like the people's team at that time. And it feels like we're getting back to that.
Everyone's second team. It was like everyone's second team.
It feels like we're getting back to that.
We're the neutrals' choice at the moment.
Even like Arsenal fans I've heard being like saying they love Ange Postecoglou and the way he comes across in the media. And everyone seems to love this guy, Ange, and quite rightly so. But it's not even just him in the press conference. He backs it up with the football he plays on the pitch as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, even before this game, were like, yeah, Spurs are playing well, but who have they played? Everyone's getting too ahead of themselves. And obviously this is probably coming from people who don't watch Tottenham week in, week out and seeing what we're doing on the pitch and how people are playing. But now I think after that result and that performance, people, even other rival fans, not necessarily just Arsenal, just like Man United, Chelsea, maybe they're going to start to think, okay, maybe something really is happening here.
And last super chat is from Lazy8 saying, thanks for introducing the word tonking into my vocabulary. I'll enjoy using it while discussing the imminent outcomes of the next North London with my boomer co-workers. Love that.
Big up Lazy8. They're going to be
telling you, we're going to give them a tonking.
And Carefree Lewis again with the chat. He says, I'm sure we'll chop it up properly when we play each other. Big up, family. Everyone hit the damn likes.
Yeah, I can't wait till we play you. I can't wait till Pochettino comes back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's going to be a sight to behold. And I think you're going to be taking another L at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium 2 years running. But
don't kick a man when he's down. Come on.
Chelsea deserve it for all the shit they have given us over the years. Look, I don't like kicking men when they're down, but if they wear the badge of Chelsea or Arsenal or West Ham, then that's a free pass.
It's all fair game.
Let's move on and let's talk about player ratings. Let's start off with Guilherme Vicario. 8s all round for Vicario, for Big Vic, for Venom. And I thought he was unbelievable. Didn't really put a foot wrong. Apart from his kicking, there was a few bad moments in terms of his playing out the back where he was going out of play and it was putting us under a bit of pressure at times. But in terms of out-and-out goalkeeping, making his saves, coming from corners and crosses, I thought he was top-notch.
Yeah, I think he had to make 2 big saves in that first half, which I think, by the way, everyone saw about that Reyes save, which was a world-class. But I think that save from Jesus is going under the radar because that was a very quick reaction. Literally gets fingertips to it. That's heading right into the corner as well.
The one coming from the side.
From the side on the volley. That was not an easy save. That was a really good save. And I think that save has definitely gone under the radar, how good the quality on that one was. Obviously made a very good save from Nketiah on the near post, albeit I thought it was a pretty poor finish from him. Had a couple of, as you said, nervy moments with his kicking, but other than that, I thought when it came to kind of coming to claim crosses and things and being dominant from the set pieces, he was really, really good. Made a very good late save from Saka from the edge of the box, which was probably would have seen that late because it was coming through a lot of bodies as well. Really, really strong showing. I guess I didn't give him a 9 because of those few kicking moments, but other than that,
you gave him a 7, no?
No, you gave him an 8. But other than that, I thought it was great.
Yeah. Moving on to Pedro Porro. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. I was so proud of Pedro Porro yesterday because I thought, he was going to be in for a really tough time out on that left-hand side. Luckily, Trossard went off, didn't play the game because he was injured. I thought it would have been a much harder day for him if Trossard did play. But essentially, he was up against Gabriel Jesus, which ain't an easy feat, to be honest. And I thought, for the most part, he defended admirably well. There was that one moment where he could have put in a better cross for Sonny, and you're probably talking about 3 points if that did happen, because Sonny was literally there waiting for an easy chance for him. But apart from that, I thought, he could have done a bit more going forward, let's be honest. But I thought defensively is what I'm giving him his high marks for, because I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah, I think on reflection, I think maybe I should have given him an 8, because I think the fact that he had such a strong defensive display and the fact that that's what everyone is worried about with him, and that's the big worry, and people see that as a liability. And not only was he not a liability, but I thought he was pretty great defensively, and Jesus had to be taken off in that second half because he just wasn't getting any spare change out of Porro. And I think in possession as well, his passing out the back is like, I think that goes under the radar when people like compare him to Ben White. Ben White is obviously been very good, and he's a good like defensive right back, and he's good at getting to the byline. But when it comes to build up play, I think Porro can pick out passes that Ben White could only dream of picking out in some situations with that quality. And I think that was on display yesterday. Another big game where he had a really good defensive display, and he's racking them up now. So he's going from strength to strength. I'm really proud of Pedro. Yeah,
he's going to have his work cut out for him this weekend. If he passes the test against Liverpool, then we have got a serious right back on our hands. 100%. Serious. Let's move on to Cuti Romero. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 7. Obviously scores the own goal and gives away the penalty as well, which I thought was very unlucky, to be honest. But apart from those two moments, I thought he defended really well. He was being aggressive. The amount of clearances he was making when we were really under pressure, the amount of tackles he made throughout the game as well. I thought he put in a really strong performance apart from those two moments.
To be honest, actually, for me, it wasn't those two moments where I marked him down for, because I actually think in the first half, it wasn't just that moment where he scored the own goal. I thought it was actually sloppy with his passing. He gave the ball away a couple of times, playing out from the back from a central position, got caught on a couple of occasions as well. And I thought, okay, you're being quite sloppy, Romero. And then he had those two moments as well, which I don't really blame him for. I think the penalty, there's not much he can do about it. He's trying to block the shot. The shot gets deflected. Like, there's literally nothing he can do. So it's very harsh. The own goal, I do put that down as a mistake, because I do think at the end of the day that was preventable. Like, I don't see that some own goals, there's nothing you can do. I don't think that was one of those own goals yesterday. I think he did get that badly wrong. But he did turn it around. I thought second half he was really, really good, and I thought he started to dominate. He started to show the Romero that we've been seeing for a lot of the season. I think when it comes to his performances this season, I would say this is probably his weakest performance of the season, but the fact that he ended the game so strongly and still ended up having a really good game, in my opinion, that's why I put him at a 6. But I was a bit disappointed in his first half an hour.
It's really frustrating as well, because like, we were gassing him up before the game, like completely gassing him up, saying he gets in the combined 11, no questions asked, like what a player we've got on our hands. And he has been to that standard pretty much up until the Arsenal game. Well, to be honest, I still thought he was at that standard for the majority of the game, but it was just so frustrating that at half time we're talking about him and Destiny, how much we were gassing them both up before the game, and then they both didn't put their best displays in of the season in that first half. But I thought both of them grew massively in that second half. But we'll get into Destiny in a minute. But let's talk about Mickey van de Ven. 9s all round for Mickey in his first North London derby. He put in a show for us. Defensively flawless, in my opinion. Anything that came down his side, anything that came to cross his path, I thought he dealt with majestically, to be honest. I thought he was a man mountain in the game. His recovery runs as well, I thought, were absolutely brilliant, and nobody could get any spare change out of him throughout the game, and his playing out the back as well, I thought was top notch. So big up to Mickey van de Ven.
Yeah, 100%. Barely, he was faultless, but didn't put a foot wrong. He was so calm, so composed. I thought on occasion as well, he's being pressed, and not only did he not just go for the save option, but he went and attacked the space when needed. And whenever there was a kind of running behind and there was a foot race, Van de Ven was winning it all ends up. He was helping out Udogie as well on that left-hand side when need be. He literally just didn't put a foot wrong. I was so proud of him, and he put in some really aesthetically pleasing tackles as well, slide tackles during the game, like showed his aggression but showed his calmer side as well. I thought he really stood up, and in that intense environment, especially under the intense pressure, I think he stood up and excelled at it. And all Arsenal fans coming into it didn't even want to mention Mickey van de Ven. They were like, who is this Mickey van de Ven guy that you got at the back? Well, you're damn right know who he is now. What a signing this guy's turning out to be. What a signing. I mean, we've made some unbelievable signing this window. Do you think he's the best of the lot? I mean, Vicario got to be up there in the talk for signing of the season. Madison. How can you pick between like 9 out of 10s like all over the part? It's just crazy. Mad. You got a big up to the recruitment team that made these signings. But let's move on. Let's talk about Destiny Udogie. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. I thought he struggled massively in the early stages of the game. He did look a bit rattled.
pass into Nketiah, which nearly gave away a goal. He got that early yellow card as well. And I thought Saka was just giving him a torrid time, to be honest, in the early parts of the game. But I thought once he settled down into the game, and especially in the second half, he became one of the best players on the park. The stats that you mentioned before, 8 tackles, 4 clearances, 1 block shots. I thought he was just sensational in that second half. But I thought first half, he was overawed a bit by the occasion, but once he knuckled down, he was brilliant.
Yeah, I would say, first 30 minutes, I thought he was under a lot of pressure, and it was a very difficult game for him. We knew that was going to be one of the key matchups, and when Saka is running at you full flight, and I also felt like a lot of the time he wasn't getting a lot of help from his teammates, like in that first half an hour, and he was kind of being left to deal with Saka alone, and he was struggling. And obviously the goal came from that. He obviously then had that moment where he played Nketiah through on goal, and that could have been a goal. And though there was some really nervous moments, but the reason I gave him an 8 because he didn't let that affect him. He still kept his confident way of playing, and he still continued to put in challenges, and he put in a real mature performance to turn that performance around and go. Not only did he turn the performance around, but he actually excelled in that environment and became one and started dominating that left-hand side. And to do that on a yellow card when you have been struggling through the game as a 20-year-old is so impressive. And when people were talking about Udogie about being potentially one of the best left backs in the league, the way he's been playing this season, for you maybe if you're a rival fan, you're looking at the last 20 minutes, you're like, oh, Tottenham fans are getting ahead of themselves. But how he ended the game, I don't think you can come to any other conclusion.
I mean, at times he was just picking up that ball, nicking it off Arsenal players, and just driving down the pitch, and he has just got everything to his game. He can make a difference in the final third. He's got the physicality. And what does he not have to be a top left back in the Premier League?
Nothing. He's clearly got the temperament, it seems, as well. And to put in 8 tackles when one wrong tackle and you could be off, not only do you have to be brave, but you have to have the quality to do that as well. And he had both those things. And
I saw everyone was saying the same thing at half-time. Udogie's going to get sent off. Udogie's going to get sent off.
Or he's going to get hauled off, or one of the two, and it didn't happen.
No. Let's move on to Pape Matar Sarr, another player that showed so much in this game yesterday. 7s all round. It wasn't his best display of the season, but I thought it was a really mature display for someone of his age. I said he was 20 before, but he's actually just turned 21. But I thought he wasn't miraculous on the ball. He didn't have a great game on the ball, but it was where he kind of earned his plaudits was his off the ball work yesterday. I thought he did so much great work in that second half to really help us regain that midfield and win that midfield battle after Rice went off, to really assist Bissouma in what he was doing. He was everywhere on the park. He was, like we've said many a time, he's like a Duracell bunny. He's got batteries strapped to the back of him or something, because he just never stops running. He can run for literally ever. He didn't even look tired at the end of the game. And it's just like, we have got a special player on our hands here with Pape Matar Sarr, and I would like to have seen him provide for us a bit more on the ball, but the work he was doing off the ball was just so helpful for the team.
100%. Another player who got booked early on after Vieira got the wrong side of him, and again, it looked like he was struggling. He took a couple of wild swipes around the Arsenal penalty area as well, and it looked like he was maybe having an off game, but again, he turned it around, and he started to dominate the midfield. He used his physicality to make sure that Havertz wasn't getting involved in the game, and Odegaard was also pretty well shackled for that second half, and I thought we grew into the game really nicely, and he really helped Bissouma dominate that midfield in that second half. And I thought it was for a 21-year-old going to the Emirates when you're struggling and then turn that performance around, really impressive from Sarr.
Yves Bissouma up next. 8s all round for Bissouma. He did struggle in that first half, like many of the other players. I thought it wasn't really the Bissouma that we've seen all season. I was a bit disappointed with the performance he put in the first half. He was losing the ball in strange areas, which he doesn't really usually lose the ball in. He was putting us under pressure at times. But I felt once we kind of got past our bad period in the latter stages of that first half, and especially in the second half after Rice went off, he was probably the best player on the park, to be honest. He was being the Bissouma that we'd known and loved pretty much for the first 5 games of the season. He was picking up the ball. Nobody could get the ball off him in that second half. He was driving forward. He was relieving pressure from the midfield and the defence, and he was very much a key part to why we looked so good in that second half. And he was not the sole reason, but a big percentage of the reason why we won that midfield battle.
Yeah, and as you say, in that first half, he was just off the pace a bit. I remember there was one moment where a pass gets played to him. He just lets the ball roll under his foot, like really uncharacteristically. And at that moment, I was like, "What's going on, Basuma today? Something's wrong." But then a switch seemed to be flipped with him late in that second half. He started to get his act together. I think he was frustrated with himself. You could see he was like shouting, and I thought maybe something was going on with him. But in that latter in the first half and in the second half, I thought he completely dominated Arsenal's midfield. And as you say, I thought he was a shining light in the midfield in that second half, and the way he just glides past players like they're not even there, and I thought he was exceptional. The only annoying thing is maybe he opened up so much space, but we didn't exploit that space he opened up as much maybe in the second half as we should have. But I thought he had put in a marvellous display, and I thought he was a lot of the difference maker in that second half as to why we gained so much control. Excellent display from Basuma.
Another frustration with Basuma was that booking that he picked up at the end of the first half, because it was just so needless. He gets it for arguing, and Romero or Maddison, I can't remember which one, had to pull him away, and it's just something to watch out for because it was just so needed. Sarr just gets booked, and then Basuma gets booked again for arguing that challenge, and it was just like, why?
Pointless. Yeah.
Moving on to James Maddison, 8s all round for Mads, and really worrying moment when he gets robbed by Gabriel Jesus inside our box, and Gabriel Jesus pretty much should have finished that chance, and that would have been 2-0 at that time, and who knows what could have happened after that. But I felt, as well as the other players that we're talking about, kind of feel like we're saying the same thing about every player, but he didn't start the game well, and he grew into the game and was one of the most influential players on that pitch. Amazing work to provide that assist for the first goal. Completely sends Bukayo Saka back to Woolwich, and he spins round. Lovely assist for Heung-min Son. Second one, he absolutely robs Jorginho on the in the middle of the park, and he drives forward and plays a perfect ball into Sonny. And I felt just we lost so much on that pitch, so much creative talent on that pitch when he went off, and it felt like we just couldn't create as much as when he went off, and it was a really big shame. And hopefully he's not injured, because it looked like his knee took a bit of a twist, and if he's out for any extended amount of time with these injuries are racking up, and it's a cause for concern.
Yeah, 100%. So let's hope he's okay. But he actually got that injury as well from robbing Jorginho again, and then Jorginho makes a really cynical foul on him, and that was it could easily led to him going off. Thankfully he did stay on for a bit, but again, he was our most creative player on the pitch by far. I think when he was coming in the deep positions as well and picking up the ball from deep and spraying them out to Kulusevski and Brennan Johnson, that was like really, really impressive. He didn't have the best start, just like the rest of the team, but when we were in control and on top, he was a shining light, and I thought he had a much better game than Odegaard did in general yesterday. Another matchup which people were saying there was no comparison, but I think yesterday showed that it's a lot more even than people think, and the 2 assists were completely fantastic passes to Heung-min Son, especially the second one, because a lot of players in this situation, it's not as easy as you think to get the correct way to pass, just to make sure he doesn't even have to take a touch on. He can just take it first time in his stride and score, and it was perfect for Maddison, and it was from his own good work, robbing Jorginho as well himself, and that was really, really great to see. The only downside is he didn't really get into too many goal scoring positions, which we know Maddison could be clinical in those positions, but in the 2 opportunities he did get to create, he did exactly what he does, and another really good display, and especially doing that away at the Emirates just shows he could be a big game player for us, hopefully.
Yeah, and a lot of Arsenal fans were coming into this game being like, oh, Maddison's a good player, but he doesn't do it in the big games. Well, he did it yesterday in a big game. So
6 goal contributions in 6 games.
Yeah, in 6 games. Unbelievable.
What a start.
Unbelievable start for Maddison. And again, it brings me back to my point about the recruitment this summer and the caliber of player that we have brought in. And back to your point on Odegaard, by the way, like, you're talking about the Arsenal captain here in Martin Odegaard, who had an unbelievable start to the game. But once he got booked, that pressing, all the pressing stopped from Odegaard. And you compare that to the players that, when we got booked early, Udogie, Bissouma and Pape Matar Sarr, they didn't stop playing their game. They carried on persisting with their game. As soon as Odegaard got booked, he vanished out that game.
Great point. And that goes to show how brave you have to be when you're on a booking to continue to play in that way. And that's what we showed, bravery.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not what he showed.
Exactly. And that's their captain we're talking about. Let's talk about Dejan Kulusevski now. 8s all round for Deki. And I thought it was a really good display, mature display, especially in that first half when we were coming under pressure. I thought he was relieving it quite a few times. He was winning the ball back time and time again and being the kind of water carrier for us on the day. And I just thought he was just so important for us throughout the 90 minutes, and he's really proving his worth to the team now, these last two performances. And I feel like he's getting back to those levels that he was at the early stages of his Spurs career.
Yeah, and I thought he was a really good outlet for us. I think that was the physical battle in the front line we were able to consistently win, and I thought he was giving Zinchenko no end of problems. The chance that we set up for Brennan Johnson was made when Kulusevski played Son in. I thought on that right-hand side, he was consistently getting the ball and driving forward into that space, and he was giving just Arsenal no end of problems. That was their biggest weakness, I felt, in their backline, just Kulusevski driving with the ball. And he set up a chance for Richarlison late on as well, which maybe he could have done better with. And I thought he was a really, really strong display again from Kulusevski. And I thought, despite the fact that Saka, if we're comparing him to Saka obviously got 2 goals or goal and an assist, and was giving Udogie a rough time in the first 20 minutes. But I thought throughout the whole 90 minutes, Kulusevski was actually more threatening than Saka for a more consistent period of the game. So I thought it was a really, really strong display from Kulusevski.
Yeah, definitely. And Heung-min Son, 9s all round. And did Sonny put a foot wrong the whole game?
Brilliant.
Because he had only 18 touches on the day. 13 out of his 14 passes were accurate. 2 key passes on the day. 2 goals. First ever Spurs player to score 2 at the Emirates as well, I believe. And what a performance. What a number 9 performance it was from him, to be honest. And you're looking at Sonny, that first finish. I still, like I said it before in the match, in the review, I don't know how he does it, because he's in between Saliba, Gabriel and Declan Rice, probably 3 of Arsenal's best defensive players. And he just flicks it into the bottom corner to beat David Raya. Unbelievable finish into the side netting, flicks off the post even. And then the second one as well, he makes no mistake about it. Lovely ball from James Maddison, and he just slots it underneath David Raya. And on top of that, he was creating chances at times as well, where maybe other players should have done better. He was in the right place at the right time when Porro should have swung it round. I can't remember which Arsenal player it was. And he maybe should have got his hat-trick. But I thought it was a real captain's performance from Heung-min Son. You could see the leadership qualities as he was geeing up his teammates all the time. You saw the passion come out in him with the celebrations as well, as all the players went back onto the field and he just stood there next to the Spurs fans, just taking it all in.
Cold.
It really was. And also bringing the team over to do the huddle outside the away end just before the game as well, which I thought was another touch of class from Heung-min Son. And I said it on the fan show, and I'm going to say it again. I feel like Heung-min Son, leadership qualities that he's showing now, is our best captain since Ledley King. Yeah,
honestly, I'm loving him in this leadership role. He's really taking it so well, and he's really stepping up in this role. Like I never thought, even I thought he could be a good captain, but I never thought he'd show up in this way. And I thought at the Emirates, I thought he led the line brilliantly. He was the one pressing from the front. I actually thought it wasn't just his goals he was good. I thought his link-up play was really good as well. He obviously set up the chance for Brennan Johnson, didn't he?
Yeah.
Which Brennan Johnson forced a save out of Raya, so that was really unlucky. I thought when he picked up the ball from deep, he was giving Arsenal's defence a bit of a run around. The 2 finishes were cool as you like, especially the second one. The first one as well, it's just a brilliant flick finish. He has to react to it so quickly because it was kind of fired into him by Maddison. He had to be fired into him because there's so many defenders around him, and he was able to flick it into that corner so expertly. And I said it before the game, he's the best finisher in the league for me, or maybe second to Haaland. And people are laughing at that, but I think it just goes to show what an amazing finisher he was. 2 chances, 2 goals, and that's all he needs.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable to think about. He's the first player to score two goals for us at the Emirates.
Wow. That's also true. And also second now for the Golden Boot behind Haaland. Only 3 behind Haaland.
Only.
He's on 5 now for the season. He's only scored in 2 games. But
yeah,
I'm sure if he continues to play in this way, he's going to get a lot of goals this season. Yeah. And surely, hopefully, look, he's already got half what he got last season because he got 10 league goals, already on 5.
Yeah. And last of the starting 11, Brennan Johnson making his first start for Tottenham Hotspur. 7s all round for Brennan. And I thought it was a really positive start for him for life at Tottenham. Straight away, just thrown into the deep end at the Emirates in the North London derby. And yeah, maybe he should have done better with a few of the chances that he did, but I thought he was getting the right positions. He was causing problems. He's a bright spark, and he made the keeper work. So I think it was a really good display from Brennan. It was just unfortunate that he goes off injured in his first start.
Yeah, he was giving Arsenal a lot of trouble down that left-hand side with his pace and obviously with his instincts inside the box, because he can play as a number 9, and I think that's where his striker instincts came into effect. He nearly got on the score sheet a couple of times in that first half. If it wasn't for an unbelievable world-class save from Raya, he gets on the score sheet, and then the ball falls to him in the box and he takes a quick snapshot, which Raya closed down very quickly. And I just thought he was involved. He was involved in a lot of our attacks and a lot of our good play, and to do that at 22 years of age with your first start of Spurs at the Emirates in a intense atmosphere, I think that was really impressive. And a lot of players in those situations maybe would have been a bit anonymous and maybe wouldn't have got as involved as he did, but he was there, he was involved in a lot of the attacks, and he was unlucky. So I think it was a promising opening for him.
Yeah. Moving on to the substitutes, and let's talk about Manor Solomon. Sim gives us a 7. I gave him a 5. Maybe a 5 is a bit harsh on reflection, maybe a 6, but I think he just didn't give us the same kind of outlet as the other players that were on the pitch before him that was doing, like Brennan Johnson. I thought was giving us much more of an outlet than Manor Solomon did. I thought he got on the ball and he showed his trickery a couple of times, but it didn't really mount to anything, and I thought he was a little bit frustrating when he came on the pitch.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't as much. Maybe a 7's a bit too high. I think a 6 is probably fair. I thought he looked a bit tricky, and on a couple of occasions he looked to really test Ben White, but wasn't able to really be effective in that final third. I thought he did a few things well. I thought he tracked back quite well as well, but yeah, the impetus in that final third did seem to die a bit when he was on the pitch. So unfortunately, wasn't able to make too much of a difference.
Moving on to Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. And there are actually some really nice moments in there from Højbjerg where he was like flicking it over Arsenal players. A couple of times he did it. But I felt like, we were in the ascendancy when he came on. And when he did come on, I felt like we lost all the ascendancy. And I feel like Højbjerg is just not that player on Maddison's level, unfortunately, in the creative aspect. So, unfortunately, I don't think it's mainly down to his performance, but that's just the player he is. Yeah. Unfortunately, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and he did what he could. But unfortunately, it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I don't know what the mentality was when he came on, but it seemed to be more about protecting the result rather than actually going and scoring the winner. Apart from, if there was a few nice moments from him playing some good passes forward, I actually thought there was a few nice moments with him and Udogie on that left-hand side where they were playing their way out of trouble really, really nicely, but wasn't really able to affect the game going the other way. And in the final third, wasn't able to do much. But I thought he contributed well to seeing out the result, so gave him a 7.
And last but not least, in terms of the playing staff, is Richarlison. He comes on for Heung-min Son, goes up at 9. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 6. And it was frustrating, that Richarlison's cameo when he came on, to be honest, because he was getting in good positions. He was getting the ball in good areas, but he just couldn't seem to finish the ball, albeit the one right at the end was a very hard shot, very hard opportunity. So he forces Raya, I think he did force Raya into a save, and then we got that corner right at the end, but he just failed to make too much of an impact. And like I said with Højbjerg, when Son goes off and Maddison goes off and you bring him on, Højbjerg and Richarlison, we just lost majority of the attacking intent that we did have in the game.
Yeah, I thought on a couple of occasions he was actually a bit selfish, where he had his back to goal, and instead of trying to lay off for a teammate, he tried to swivel and shoot on a couple of times where the shot wasn't really on and the attack kind of broke down, which was a bit frustrating. He did have that chance right at the end, which was laid on by Kulusevski. I think it was a deflection wide, but I haven't seen it back, so it might have been a save. But he had that moment as well. His shot deflected and Raya looked like he might be carrying it over the line, but obviously he never did. But I thought the good thing about it, he was making himself a bit of a nuisance. He was getting involved in the play. It wasn't just anonymous. So that was decent, but the quality was just a bit lacking again.
And now we're going to finish off on Big Ange Postecoglou. Sim gives him a 9. I gave him an 8. I probably would have given him a 10, to be honest, if we would have gone and won the game. But I just did feel like, well, first of all, let's start off with the good things, because I feel like as much as we came under pressure in that first half, it would have been very easy for us to change up the way we were playing and maybe go for a more defensive formation to really contain Arsenal. But we kept to our guns. We kept to the way that Ange believes is the best way to play our football, and that is attacking football and good football, quick passing and moving football. And I feel like it's such a breath of fresh air to see Spurs just keep going, even when things aren't going well, keep going. And we got our rewards for that, because by the end of it, Spurs fans were disappointed going away with only 1 point in the game. And that's a testament to Ange Postecoglou and the way he set us up and the belief that he's given the players and the fan base of this football club. I would say that maybe he was forced into these changes, but if he wasn't forced into the changes with Maddison and Heung-min Son, I thought it was the wrong changes to make at that point in the game, because we did lose a bit of attacking impetus, like I mentioned, going into the final 10 minutes of the game, which was a big source of frustration for me, because I felt like at that time we had them a bit on the ropes and we could have just pushed that little extra bit more to go and win that game, which was a bit frustrating in the last 10 minutes. But you can't take anything away from that performance, and that, look, it's a good result whichever way you slice it. As much as we're disappointed with not coming away with 3 points, it's a good result to go to the Emirates and take away a point from there. We haven't won there in the last 3 games. I think he's now picked up more points in the Emirates than Jose, Nuno and Conte all put together. So look, you got to give all credit to Ange Postecoglou, but those little bits of frustration did get to me.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's got us playing like this at the Emirates after 6 games is an exceptional achievement from him and the management. The fact as well that not only does he have us playing like this, but as well we struggled in that first half an hour to handle that Arsenal press. Yet we stuck to our game. We continued to play the way that he's been wanting us to play, and playing out from the back and being confident in our own play. And the fact that not only did we stick to that, it actually worked, and we were able to excel and actually started to dominate and actually started to control the game. We got back in the game and we deservedly earned the point. And I think that goes a long way for me to show where we're going under Postecoglou. And I can't ask for much more than what I'm seeing right now from him. And yeah, those changes may be a bit frustrating near the end. He says after the game there was a bit of injury prevention. He was worried that one of them might be picking up an injury if they stayed on. So look, it's a long season, especially with our thin squad. I understand that decision, but maybe we could have won the game if they would have stayed on. But I think the way we're playing as we are under Postecoglou in these situations, in these environments with these young players as well, that he's given them the confidence and the license to play like that is astonishing. But not only does he have the license to play like that, but you still also have to have the quality and management to take control of the game. It's not all about mentality. You have to also have the tactics and the quality, and he's got that in abundance clearly as well with the way we're set up. So really, really impressive from Ange Postecoglou, and his start to life is getting better and better, I think.
It's just great to see as well Arteta give him all the plaudits after the game and say what a great manager he is and all this kind of stuff. So look, we're going in the right direction under Big Ange, so happy days. We've got a members chat here from Ryan Isaacs, member for 17 months. Ryan, big up. I'm not sure or not yesterday, Ryan, didn't see you, but he says, Big Ange, I wasn't familiar with your game. Well, I'm sure you're familiar now, Ryan. And Tottenham away saying, look at all the Arsenal fans outside the Emirates post-match, quiet and humbled. Haven't had a peep out of them since before the game.
They're all very frustrated. I think they're all very surprised by how Tottenham played. I think they all really thought that if we came and played our game and we were open and expansive, that would play into their hands. But I don't think they realised what they were asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's move on to the 5 takeaways. And the first one we're going to look at is Arsenal nullified.
Yeah, so I was looking at some of Arsenal's performances and stats so far this season, and for all the talk about this is how if we were to play the way we're going to play, that they were going to completely open us up and destroy us, and that was going to be how the game was going to go. Well, Arsenal recorded their lowest tally this season so far for possession, for touches and passes in the final third, for touches and passes in the penalty area, for progressive passes and progressive carries, for shots and for key passes as well. And it was their lowest, one of their, I think, second lowest for XG as well on the day. But obviously they were helped by a penalty, which obviously ups your XG by a lot. So
yeah, they got 2.03 XG. Without the penalty, that's probably like 1.03.
1.3, about 1.3. So I'm saying for all the talk of that, it's going to play into their hands for us to play expansive, and that's going to really allow them the opportunities to score and wipe the floor with us. They were actually nullified more than any other game this season.
Unbelievable. And
by the stats.
And it's just unbelievable to think about all those stats as well, because of the attitude that they came into this game with. So arrogant. Unbelievably arrogant. They were talking to us like they were Man City, essentially. That's how they were talking to us, that they've won the league 4 years in a row. They've just won the Champions League. They're the best team in the world. No one could ever touch them.
You can't play against us. It's
you know what I
impossible
mean?
to play
It was just
against
like,
us,
no, you can't play. Even though a few weeks ago they drew 2-2 with Fulham at home. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing coming out of their mouths.
Also, have you realised a bit like when teams do come, when good teams I should say do come to to Arsenal and play their game, they do struggle a bit. Like City, they lost. Brighton, they lost. I remember last season as well. Liverpool, I remember they struggled in that game. So I don't think Arsenal are this impossible team to play play their game against. I'm not. Obviously, they're a good team, but teams can go toe to toe with them. It's not beyond possibility.
Yeah, but they think they're this team that are going to go and beat Man City to the title this year. They can't even keep a clean sheet at home.
Exactly.
They're so way off the title, in my opinion. Way off. They think they're so much better than they are, and it's actually mind blowing to me. It's absolutely mind blowing, and they talked about Spurs fans. They're like, "Oh, you guys think you're so good," and all this kind of stuff, and how do we think we're so good when our ambitions this year is to finish between 4th and 5th and maybe 6th? You know what I mean? And
we just think we can give them a game. That's
exactly.
all.
And they're like, "Oh, we're going to win the title this year. We're going to win the title."
And who's more deluded? Exactly.
All right. Let's move on to number 2, and that is Spurs pressure.
Yeah, and I think we actually put Arsenal under a lot more pressure than they have, especially good teams like Man United went to Arsenal and they didn't put them under as much pressure as we did. And I was looking at some of the stats as well. And in terms of what Arsenal have faced this season, it was the highest shots on target they faced. It was the highest XG they've conceded this season. It was also the most tackles in the final third and the most tackles in the middle third they've received this season. And I think that goes a long way to showing kind of how much pressure we were putting them under, and maybe they didn't deal with that pressure as well as they thought they would.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a big part of that was Rice going off at half-time, to be honest, because I thought with Rice on, they did have control of the midfield for the most part in that first half. And when he went off, they just had no answer to what Bissouma and Sarr could provide us, and Maddison in that middle of the park. And if Rice is injured for an extended amount of time now...
Rumours of a calf injury.
I mean, if he is injured for... up until after that Man City game in a couple of weeks' time, I mean, they could fall massively behind, in my opinion.
Well, they have no Partey as well. Yeah. So it's going to be very difficult for them to have a defensive mid. But luckily, they've only got 2 games, but one of them is Man City. So, look, they're already 4 points behind at this stage. And they can't really, with Man City just being perfect, they can't really afford to drop too many more points.
No, exactly. And I think, it's just exactly what the doctor ordered with all these Arsenal fans, the way they were talking coming into this game. And not only... were they talking about title, they're also talking about how deep their squad is now, and how they've got cover in every position, and how their transfer window was so good and all this kind of stuff.
But then they complain about injuries.
Now they're complaining about injuries, and they're complaining about being left with Chelsea rejects on the pitch. Which way do you want it, guys?
Exactly.
I don't understand.
Pick a lane.
Let's move on to number 3, and we're going to be talking about Bissouma turnaround.
Yeah, and I thought Bissouma yesterday had a really dodgy start to the game, and in the first 20 minutes he was getting hounded, and it looked like he was a bit off the pace and he wasn't going to have a great game, but he did end up turning the game around, and he ended up actually being one of the best players on the pitch when it come the end of the game, especially that second half. And his stats were pretty good. 6 out of 9 ground duels, 95% passing accuracy, which at the Emirates is especially under that pressure is pretty decent. 1 of 1 dribbles completed, 4 tackles on the day as well. And I just thought I think he really turned his performance around in that second half, and he showed why we've all been waxing lyrical about him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at half-time, Arsenal fans that watched our combined 11 and all the pre-match stuff were probably laughing at us, being like, look, Bissouma's showing his real value here at the Emirates. He can't get anything. But by the end of the game, they must have been like, well, and maybe they had a point, because he was absolutely unplayable in that second half. They couldn't get the ball off him. He was doing those. I mean, he was just getting the ball. And like I've said many a time, when you think he's going to go right, he goes left. When you think he's going to go left, he goes right. Or he just drives through the middle of the park, straight through the heart of your midfield and starts making attacks for us. So I thought Bissouma was unreal to die for in that second half. And I thought probably the best player on the park in that second half. So big up to Yves Bissouma. Let's move on to number 4, and that is Son, the difference maker.
Yeah, and he didn't need many chances yesterday, Sonny, but he obviously made the difference with his 2 goals, 2 really clinical finishes. But it wasn't just the finishes which impressed me as well. He had 2 key passes on the day. Obviously set up Brendan Johnson with a really good pullback, which could have easily put a Spurs level just before we equalised as well. And I thought he was actually a lot better in the 9 than I thought would be in terms of his build-up play, not just running in behind and being a threat that way, but actually linking the play with Kulusevski and Maddison. And I thought he was actually something that Arsenal really struggled to deal with in that number 9 position. And I did say before the game, a lot of this is, if there's going to be chances at both ends, a lot of it could come down to who's just more clinical. And he showed why he's one of the best clinical best finishers in the league yet again yesterday. And I just thought he was that difference maker in front of goal.
Yeah, and everyone talks about over the last couple of seasons the kind of link up between Kane and Son. No one's talking about the link up between Son and Maddison because that has been something special this season as well. That link up, two goals they linked up for yesterday. That first goal, I've said it many a time this stream, but I still don't know how he does that in between 3 Arsenal defenders with Declan Rice, Gabriel and Saliba. And like you say, the difference maker on the game. And this is what we were saying in the build up to this game. Gabriel Jesus versus Heung-min Son. Gabriel Jesus needs about 10 chances to put away 2 or 3. Sonny, all he needs is 2 chances, and that's 2 goals straight off the bat. And that clinical edge that he has to his game, and that's why I thought he was just so good for us in that number 9, and why he's going to be so good for us this season. 5 goals already this season. And how many goals do you reckon he can finish off this season with? Who knows?
And actually, I'm just there's a comment that's been left on our YouTube on the vlog, and it's talking about Sonny. And I think this establishes what a good finisher he is, because top goal scorer right now in the league is Haaland, right? He's got 8 goals. But if you look at the big chances missed, he's missed 9 big chances during the season. That just goes to show how many chances he gets. Yet Son is second with 5 goals, and he's missed 0 big chances. Which just goes to show, like, when he gets a chance, he just buries it. He's that clinical. And I think that highlights it.
And that's the difference maker. That is what you call a difference maker.
Exactly.
And unbelievable stuff. Let's move on to the 5th and final takeaway, and we're going to talk about mature Udogie.
Yeah, and again, another player who was really struggling the first half an hour or so with dealing with Bukayo Saka, and he fouled him. He picked up a booking, and especially we picked up booking 15 minutes in. You're thinking 75 minutes or more with Saka running at him, he's going to really struggle in this game to stay on the pitch essentially, or not get hauled off at some point. But I thought he not only did he continue to step up for the team, but he made 8 tackles during the game. He continued to just play his game and play his his aggressive game as well. Continued to put a foot in. He actually grew into the game and started to excel down the left-hand side, and actually started dominating that left-hand side as well during the game. And the fact that he made 8 tackles, 4 clearances while on a yellow card, I think is just so impressive, and just goes to show why we're so excited about this 20-year-old. And that just goes to show his temperament and his mentality as well, to not only just on the yellow card struggle and go within yourself, but to excel in that situation in the Emirates, away from home, against Saka as well. Unbelievable from him.
Yeah, such great maturity. And we've said it about many a player coming into the team this year: Vicario, Van de Ven, Destiny Udogie, Pape Matar to a certain extent as well. So young, coming into the league for their first time. New players, new system, new everything, and all of them have just it feels like they've been here for years, and it feels like they've been in the Premier League for years, and it feels like they're much older than they are. They're so mature for their age, and a big testament to Ange for moulding it all together so quickly. It's just unbelievable to see. And yeah, Udogie did struggle in the opening stages of the game, coming up against one of the best right wingers in the Premier League in Bukayo Saka, and he's got a bloody big test against Salah this weekend, by the way. But the way he kind of just shrugs that off and just grows and grows and grows into the game to being one of our most influential players on the pitch. I mean, you just got to give him all the kind of props that he deserves, because he is quickly becoming one of the best left backs in this league.
100%.
So those are 5 takeaways from the 2-2 draw at the Emirates. There might be a few super chats to get into before we go on to the 5 takeaways.
You mean the takeaways to react?
Sorry, I mean to see how Twitter reacted to the game. There's just one from KPV, member for 8 months. I don't think that's kind of true, but he says, Sonaldo just loves scoring against Arsenal. He's now scored 6 goals in 9 games against them. Sonaldo owns Arsenal. Come on, you Spurs. Sonaldo is the North London derby killer. Well, he's the modern day one, the post-Kane killer, that's for sure.
6 in 9, great record for Sonny.
I swear he was on 5 before this game, though. I think he's on 7 now.
I thought he was on 5 as well.
Yeah, I think he was.
Maybe he is 7. But it's not like KPV to get numbers wrong.
KPV, get it right, mate. Get it right.
You jabroni.
But let's go and see how Twitter reacted to the game yesterday. We've liked
there are some
many tweets. So I think this could be a bit of a long episode for you guys. But let's start off with this one from Anderton Mabbott, the Sunday roast with... I love that because... We'll get. I think
Absolutely
there is a clip
brilliant.
of it after with Maddison with what he said after the game. But they asked him about, did you see Bukayo Saka's celebration? He was like, yeah, I saw him doing the dart celebration, and he must have still been doing that dart celebration when I spun him for the goal, and that's just basically what that is made on Photoshop. So lovely stuff there.
Brilliant.
Next down from Hotspur related, Sonny celebrating in front of the Arsenal fans. And that is basically a remake of the Dele Alli and Chelsea one.
I love these pictures when you just zoom in on these angry Arsenal fans like swearing at him, and he's just, I love it. These are like my favourite pictures on these occasions. I just love these angry Arsenal fans' faces.
A bit of
so
racism
good
there as well, which no one likes to see.
That's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Next up from Hotspur related as well, saying Ange Postecoglou has already recorded more points away at Arsenal than 3 of his predecessors, Mourinho, Espirito Santo and Antonio Conte, connected between them. And that was from The Athletic. Data MB, this is the between Bissouma and Rice, so you can see he's clearly performing better this season, and that is Yves Bissouma.
That. Oh, beautiful. A lovely graph that is.
And that's what I was saying coming into this game as well. Like, Declan Rice can only dream of doing some of the things that Yves Bissouma does in a football pitch.
100%. He's like the ball carrying ability. He's just not capable of what Bissouma is capable of. And you got to remember as well, Bissouma's only really been starting for Spurs for 6 games now. Imagine like after like 20 or 30 games, like, and when he's more settled as well. Like, I think he's going to go from strength to strength.
And I love it what Ange keeps saying. He's like, we're just at the infancy in what we're doing. Like, if this is the infancy, what is the finished product going to look like?
I don't know. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I agree.
Jacko says, once again, magnificent in a big game. Vicario is different. Absolute Rolls Royce of a keeper. We're so lucky to have him here. And absolutely spot on, because I was one of the fans that were kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about this guy. He looked dodgy in the Brentford game and he looked a bit dodgy in pre-season. But I could not be happier with what he's showing, what his goalkeeping abilities are showing like. And I don't think anyone, apart from if you've watched Empoli week in, week out last season, thought like how good this guy is actually going to be.
Yeah, 100%. And it was actually an interesting subplot, which hasn't really talked about, because there was obviously Raya in goal for Arsenal, who we nearly got in the summer, and Vicario was in goal for us. It was a bit of a battle of the goalkeepers that we could have had.
Both played well, to be fair.
Both did play very well, but look, Vicario definitely, I wouldn't say was better than him, but was just as good, and for half the price.
How much was Vicario? 20 mil?
17
mil. So
not bad.
For him, 17 mil. David Raya, they wanted 40 million for.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm much more happy with Vicario for 17 mil than Raya for 40, that's for sure. Even though Raya is a very good keeper in his own right and probably made the save of the game yesterday as well.
True.
This is from Hotspur Irish, different gravy for Mickey van de Ven, and he really was different gravy
different
yesterday.
Gravy. I couldn't put it better myself.
Next up is from Jersey Spurs, and they're saying tag yourself in this, and that is the scenes.
What a picture.
James Maddison celebrating his assist like a goal.
Oh, you see to the left, there's Dicko straight. If you look at Maddison's head, just a bit to the left, he's right there. Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. These are my favourite pictures, when you just got a moment to capture a moment in time. Oh, it's absolutely
and that
brilliant.
is what you call pure limbs.
Yeah,
that
literally.
is the definition of limbs yesterday.
I know it's rich of me to say this, but not a phone inside.
Very rich. And this is just basically the video of the limbs from Daily Hotspur, and just look at that.
Oh, phenomenal.
You say not a phone in sight until you just pan a bit to the left and you'll see a phone.
Is that right? Are we there?
No, we're not in that one.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Look at that. There were some great away limbs yesterday, you've got to say.
Limbs of the season, that's for sure. This is Billy Keynes in the away end yesterday with his brand new flag, and it was, don't you know, pump it up. The Arsenal effed it up.
I love it. Absolutely. So wish we could have got that going yesterday. That would have been great.
Yeah, I did try, but anyway. Luke says, Udogie completely locked up Saka in general play for his first North London derby, and being 20 years old is not bad going. Fantastic player. I mean, I thought he struggled against Saka in the opening stages of the game, but once he kind of got to the grips of the game and the rhythm of the game and the speed of the game, that's absolutely true, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, I think so. And that's even more impressive, the fact that he was struggling. Like, he didn't take confidence of having a good opening. Like, he struggled and he didn't let him get to him, and then he ended up excelling.
And this is the Heung-min Son passion, which I was talking about in the player ratings. Look at that. Look at that passion from Heung-min Son. I absolutely love it.
God. Oh, man. What a guy. Our captain.
This is from Bardi, showing two... this was the sending off from Emerson Royale last year at the Emirates, and this was Nketiah this year at the Emirates. One was a sending off, one wasn't. You tell me which one.
Exactly. I definitely think Nketiah got very, very lucky. Very lucky. And that's we did well. Let's be honest, a lot of decisions that just didn't go away yesterday, did they? And still, even though that they didn't go away, we still came away with the result.
It did seem like 12 against 11 at times yesterday with that referee yesterday.
We haven't talked about the referee. I didn't think he had a good game. No. I didn't think he had a good game at all yesterday.
We say this at the end of every game.
That's also true, yeah. It's also true.
Tottenham tears, Heung-min Son shushing the Arsenal fans.
That is a cold picture. That's a cold picture. I love it.
And there was one a couple of years back of Eric Dyer doing it, but this one just means so much more.
Yeah, because he ended up losing that game as well. Yeah, but exactly. That was great.
This one, someone stuck a Tottenham stick out on the back of an Arsenal fan.
That is amazing. Oh, man.
So someone took a picture and saying who did that. So he must have been walking around with that for a while.
That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I hope he's still got it on him now.
He probably does. This was Vicario on Instagram saying another strong performance from the boys. Unbeaten. Travelling fans were superb again. Come on, you Spurs.
Big up, Big Vic.
George Achillia saying, happy with the draw, but looking back, I still don't understand how it wasn't a red. He doesn't need to make contact with his studs for it to be a red card. It was extremely late, reckless, and Vicario's foot was already planted when Nketiah went through him.
Yeah, it was just it was a reckless challenge. And what, they're basically saying he has to break his leg for it to be a red at this point. Yeah. Honestly, very, very lucky.
And the Spurs web, my captain, another cold picture from Heung-min Son jumping in front of the Arsenal fans. Another one.
I can look at these pictures all day. Honestly, it's
absolutely.
So good.
Simply Spurs saying Saka trying to mug off Maddison with the darts. He just keeps missing the triple.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Love that. This one was great.
Can we have sound on this?
Shaw yesterday, celebrating the Arsenal goal.
Yeah, he's being all smug with the dart celebration. Oh, it's so good. There's a few of these from Arsenal fans going on. Oh my god. Then at any moment now, show like a countdown. They're all being so, it's definitely a penalty. Oh, we're 2-1, we're going to win. Oh, then it just...
I'm surprised he didn't do the rip it all off.
I remember that. Oh, my God. Oh, brilliant. Oh, angry Gooners. There's nothing better. There is nothing better.
That. Spurs Express saying Tottenham captain Heung-min Son now scored 5 goals in his last 3 games playing as striker. He's now only 5 goals apart from matching his goal record from last season with 32 games left to play. Form is temporary, class is permanent.
Who said Son was finished? Name yourselves. Name and shame.
Can he score more goals this season than he did in his Golden Boot season?
Yeah, why not?
I think 100%.
Why not?
Sports financial planners saying Vicario's parents sat in front of me, lovely people, and they joined in the songs as the games went on. So
lovely. Great moment for him. We need a song for Vicario. We don't have a song for him yet, do we?
Yeah, we do. It's Vicario.
We need a better song than that. We need a better song than that.
Bissouma's game against Arsenal by numbers: 94% pass accuracy, 71 touches, 51 out of 54 passes completed, 6 out of 9 ground duels won, 4 out of 4 tackles won, 4 ball recoveries, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won, and 1 out of 1 dribbles completed. A dominating performance from Yves Bissouma. Lovely stuff. And this is my dog Lily, fully coys yesterday. And as I put that Spurs scarf on her after the game, she loved every second of it.
Of course, I bet she celebrated every goal.
Yeah, she did. Spurs Express, Captain Heung-min Son on the result. When you go to the changing room after the game, the players were not really happy because they want to win. And that is the mentality that we want from our captain. And that is the mentality that we want from the squad as well.
Exactly. For all the Arsenal fans saying we celebrated like we won a cup, we're literally literally saying we're disappointed with the result. So, look, I think that's the right mentality.
Yeah. Well, these videos look like they've been deleted, so we'll go down. Curtis Shaw, we've shown that already. This one,
this is, oh my
Tottenham
God.
Confidential. Tottenham captain Heung-min Son made Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta literally cry today with the second equaliser for Spurs, wiping away tears. No need for the Snapchat lens for tonight, fellas.
Inject that reaction. He knew. The thing is, he was crying because he knows if you can't give Maddison the ball there, he knows what's going to happen. He knows that it's going to end up in the back of the net. That's exactly what happened.
Wipe away those tears, Mikel.
Brilliant.
And I felt Mikel just got it completely wrong at times yesterday as well. Lee McQueen saying, Ange, this quote from Ange, if we continue down this road, we can compete against the best.
Why not? Why not?
I can't wait for Ange to lead us into the Champions League. How good is that going to be?
Oh, man, I'm not getting too ahead of myself just yet. But look, why not? Why not? Why can't we do it this
Spurs
season?
Army saying easiest the limbs of the season. And we've had some limbs this season as well. But yeah, 100%. That second goal limbs was just insane yesterday.
Exactly. At the Emirates. Oh my God. Nothing better than limbs at the Emirates. There's not often, but it's nothing better.
Yeah. This one, I mean, you've got to wait for the advert to finish, but it's not on there. So it's Maddison after the game. Listen to what he says. It's absolutely brilliant. His action was terrible. THFC Cootie says his first North London derby and he did not disappoint.
Must have been a deleted tweet, I think.
All right, well, just go to the one below that and talk about Paul Merson, because we haven't mentioned Paul Merson. He said Arsenal are going to absolutely batter Spurs.
Yeah, he said if the Spurs come and play their football, there's no chance. They're just going to get slaughtered. They can't come here and play and open up like that because you're just going to get absolutely slaughtered.
And that is the moment. When I first saw that is the moment I grew in confidence in this game, because he is always wrong. Always.
Always. He's never got one right.
Tottenham Hotspur saying Sonny is fully coised.
Of course he is.
I think they were just copying my tweet about Lily.
Definitely.
And then this was the cold celebration again from Heung-min Son. I can watch this celebration over and over again. And this was the celebration after the celebration, because he celebrates with his team and then he just takes a moment with the Spurs fans. And that is what you call a leader. Look at that.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Football Confidential, Arsenal showed today versus Spurs that despite this is the one I was talking about off air with and you got to play this. You got to play this. You win at all costs. Hello, mate. Hello, mate.
Oh, I love him, mate. Oh, I love Big Ange so much. He's so good for the memes. Brilliant.
Spurs Web saying Heung-min Son is the first ever Tottenham player to score twice in a Premier League North London derby at the Emirates. So big up Heung-min Son. This is Egal. If you watched our pre-match content with the Arsenal fans,
him being humble. He's saying, admitting he was wrong.
He said, Arsenal 2, Spurs 2. I was wrong. Son, James Maddison and Ange Postecoglou all backed the shit talking they were doing before the game. And go on, let's play this on full volume.
Go on, you can watch.
Let's see him eating some humble pie before the game, after the game.
Damn right. Look, I respect that, to be fair. Coming out, admitting if you're admitting you're wrong, not a doubling down or anything like that. Like, what I don't like is like all these Arsenal fans like all of a sudden talking big like, oh, it's injuries, all it's like, no, you talk shit. You said you're going to win 5-1, and now you have to take it.
I was watching Robbie's fan cam yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, no excuses. The injuries, we're not going to make any excuses for it." And then straight after, he was like, "Oh, but we had injuries."
Oh, injuries. You can't say you have the best squad in the league and it's improved, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's injuries. No, you can't give me that. Can't give me that.
But look, there's nothing better than seeing Arsenal fans humbled.
100%.
Nothing better at all. That's again Lily. Next up is Maddison and Sonny doing the Sonny celebration at the Emirates. Lovely stuff. And then that was Cameron Sims saying that's the best picture he's ever taken. Lee McQueen bringing up some stats about Arsenal.
I know, it's the Merson clip. It's the Merson clip again.
Merson clip again. We can breeze past that. And the limbs again. I think we can watch it one more time.
No, we can never not watch the limbs. Can't get enough of the limbs.
Limbs! At the Emirates. Nothing better.
Nothing better.
Look at that.
Oh, class.
Just absolutely love it, man.
Can watch it all day. Can watch it all day.
Literally. Pape Matasar just clapping emoji and a white heart to the Tottenham tweet saying your support was unbelievable, and it most definitely was. Back again with the Nketiah challenge on Vicario. How was that not a red? I don't know. But let's watch this James Maddison clip talking after the game to Spurs media, Spurs play.
They were talking, this is a bit about... This is a bit when he talks about Saka.
Apparently they can't hear.
Oh, they can't hear it? Oh. Have we not been able to hear anything? Oh, shame. Sorry, guys.
All right, we'll breeze past the videos then. But Premier League panel saying top draw from James Maddison, plays the initial long pass to progress the ball from deep to find Kulusevski in behind, then follows up in the next phase by beating Saka in a 1v1 out wide, assisting Son. He's dangerous in so many zones. And that's absolutely spot on, because actually a lot of people talk about how dangerous he is in the final third, but no one talks about how consistently he's dropping deep, picking up the ball, his off the ball work as well, and just providing for us in all areas of the pitch.
Yeah, he's been so good in the build-up, which has also been something that I've really underestimated when we signed him, how good he was going to be in those situations. So I've been so impressed with that, 100%.
We'll breeze past that tweet from Big Guadeloupe, but we'll go down to the Spurs Express saying James Maddison on Bukayo Saka. He must have still been doing the dart celebration when I turned him for the first goal. I just love that from Maddison. He's just full of banter, isn't he?
Brilliant.
And this was him sending Saka back to South London as well, with the tweet below it. Those two images. Whoop.
Oh, where are you going? Where are you going, Saka?
This one was Mickey van der Ven. Looks like a cracking piece of business from Spurs. Young, athletic, huge frame and top passer, top carrier, and can defend in wide areas 1v1, covering transitions, pretty two-footed, defended the box brilliantly at times today. The real deal, proper Ange centre-back.
That's from a Man United fan.
And that's from a Man United fan.
There you go.
Flab saying, how many Arsenal players get into the Tottenham side?
After all those combined 11s, every combined 11 started. How many Spurs players get into the Arsenal side? All these arrogant people. But yeah, brilliant from Flav.
We've been through these ones. Premier League panel again saying Bissouma's second half performance, by the way, sensational. Most composed midfielder on the pitch. Arsenal's press was hot and he provided the calming release on so many occasions.
100%. I completely agree with that. I thought in the second half he was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, and these are just a few clips of Bissouma's passes. We'll just go through that if you want to go and have a look at it. It's on our tweets.
Hugo Films 28.
Cody Mack showing a tweet from DT saying time to put the Swamp Dellers back in their place on Sunday.
No, but I think he's more looking at the reply as well.
The reply saying, I just... You can read that one yourself. I don't need to read out that one for you. Mitch Fretton saying, I wasn't fully convinced, but now I am. Yves Bissouma is better than Declan Rice. 100%. 100%. And that's what we were saying coming into this game, and no one wanted to believe us.
Yeah, I agree. I think when push comes to shove, I think Bissouma is a better player. I don't know why that one's been liked.
Okay, Fuad saying been a solid first half. This was just before the game, but let's just show Troy Parrott's goal at the end of this. By the way,
yeah, why not?
Troy Parrott's first goal out in the Eredivisie.
Lovely goal as well. Look at this. Troy Parrott on loan. Edge of the box. Whoa,
lovely
look
finish.
At that.
Lovely
look at that. Let's hope that's the first of many for Troy.
But there you have it. That is the way Twitter reacted to the game yesterday. 2-2 at the Emirates. Bit disappointing we didn't come out with all 3 points, but still a performance to take a lot of pride in from Ange Postecoglou and the boys. But I think that brings an end to the stream for you guys today. A nice 2-hour stream post North London derby. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be back very soon. We're about to record our review the Prem for On The Ball. So go over to On The Ball and check that out in a couple of hours time. And go and hit that subscribe button on The Ball as well. Great content going on there for general football. So a shameless plug for you to end off North London derby weekend. But thank you very much for watching. We'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on you Spurs.